The views, comments, and opinions of the following program do not necessarily reflect those of Morris Media Studios, MorrisMediaLive.com, or its affiliates. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to Health from the Inside Out. Dr. Jason Kelberman, chiropractic kinesiologist, host for this evening, and my co-host tonight is Dr. Suzanne Cutter. Welcome to the show. Her specialty is surgical oncology, and I know you're going to have a lot of questions for her, and we're going to get to that. But I want to open the show, first of all, by saying Happy New Year, 2020. Very big year. It's another decade down. Lots has gone on in the last decade. In our world, there's been a lot of new information, lots of movement, and we're going to jump into that pretty quick. But first, I want to say that the information and the valuable information that you're going to get tonight is for educational purposes only. Do not treat diseases at home by getting advice over the radio, internet, etc. But rather use it as a tool for empowering yourself to do the right thing with professionals.
Right. And don't try this on your pets or anything like that.
Right.
Always seek a professional, okay?
Exactly. Dr. Cutter's office is called Curetology.com, and you can reach her at 213-261-7100. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
My office is across Westside Wellness Center. And you can reach that at westsidewellnesscenter.com. My lips will work any moment. 310-268-8008.
Too much New Year's Eve kissing.
Ooh. You told me you weren't going to tell. The topic for this evening is basically foods, lifestyle. How do we use that to get well, stay well, recover from diseases, recover from surgeries, resume, our healthy lifestyle again. And I want to start this off by telling a quick little story, and you'll get the flavor on. Every time you look either in the news or on the internet, you're going to get another fad, another diet, another approach, and we jump from one thing to the next. And if you're listening out there, the idea is to find out what works best for you and just stick with it, not jump on to the next bandwagon, et cetera, et cetera. So I often get patients who come in to see me, and the latest craze is, of course, plant-based. All right. So
did that replace the what is it, the paleo? It's paleo's out, plant-based is in?
Well, it depends on which side of the street you're walking on.
Exactly.
On this side of the street, we don't eat animals.
Okay.
Okay.
Which is okay.
So it's great from all right, let me put it into perspective. If you need to cleanse, if you need to make your body's digestive system work at a lower energy state so you can put your body's energy into healing, okay, I love it.
Yeah.
Okay?
I agree.
For a long-term approach, I'm not a fan. Because I often see cases where they come in, well, oh, no, I just don't like to eat anything that has eyeballs anymore. Okay, fine, I get it. Then they turn anemic because they haven't looked at what that type of protein gives us.
Right.
And it gives us high amounts of B12 and iron, et cetera. And these are really, really important nutrients. So unless you're going to then supplement those ingredients because you just decided not to eat it, you're gonna get yourself in trouble. And this is very common. So if you're out there, you need to really know what works for your body type. And that also means your genetics, where your family's from. If you are from India and for 10 generations you've been vegetarian, chances are you're going to be a great vegetarian.
Chances are.
Chances are. But if you're from America and your last 10 generations have been meat eaters, or from other countries around the world that are basically meat eaters, the likelihood of you being a really well-balanced vegetarian is not good.
I think one of the challenges in this country is our food supply is a little bit different than other countries. So people move here from another country expecting to be able to maintain the same diet, but the elements in our food and our vegetables and everything are very different. And if you travel and everything, you notice that in restaurants and things like that, the food tastes different. Mm-hmm. I was in Turkey a few years ago and I couldn't believe it. I'm like, this is a real cucumber. Like I had forgotten how good a real cucumber, a carrot, those things are. Our food is a little bit different. And we know this is the case because we see some patients or some people that come to this country, they may have had a low risk of a certain type of cancer in their country. When they come here, they then adopt our cancer risk. Right. So it has to be something environmental, the food supply, something like that. I don't know. What do you think about that?
It's a combination of things. Yeah. So let's sort of point our listeners in a direction that they can kind of grab onto.
Okay.
The first thing, you need to kind of take stock of is where you're at health-wise. Are you A, lean, B, exercising, C, no diseases, no medications? If you're in that category, you really can do just about anything you want. Okay, you haven't veered off into any direction that got you in trouble so far.
Yeah.
You're in good shape. But if you are overweight, on medication, in different circumstances, that's a different category.
It is.
So. For those of you listening, like I said earlier, if you have no issues, no medications, you're lean, and you exercise, you can do just about any diet program you want. You can do ketogenics, which is basically high protein, high fat,
right?
Low carbohydrate, or paleo, paleogenics if you want. All of that's going to work. You can dabble with vegetarianism for a short period of time, and anybody who wants to do a cleanse, anybody who wants to recover from something, vegetarianism is a great way to go. Mm-hmm. It's easier for your body to digest those things. Heavy proteins, heavy fats, things that make your body do extra work. I think that's where we sort of drift. So let's break it down. For your body to digest and utilize fats, mm-hmm. it spends more energy than a carbohydrate. That's why everybody out there loves carbs and sugar, because they can eat it and get instant gratification on it. But I'm here to tell you that sugar is like the devil. You're going to just hear more and more and more about how all of our food supply is infiltrated. I dare anybody to go through a supermarket and pick something up that doesn't have sugar in it.
Yeah. Even in some organic markets and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Some people
it's gluten-free.
Yeah. But then
there's cane sugar
in there. Check
there.
out that list. Yeah.
Exactly.
So I agree with you. Going in the grocery store, looking at the labels.
Gotta read labels.
The labels are one of the most important things. So many people they kind of eat and they say, well, okay, this is, they pick something that looks healthy, right? On the surface. Like, oh, this is probably healthy. This looks pretty good. But you really have to scrutinize the label. But not just scrutinize the label, you have to know what your targets are for your body weight and for the calories that you're going to consume in a given day. This may have 15 grams of fat, but in your diet, that's way too much. But in someone else, that might be perfect because they burn a lot, they work out a lot, they swim or something like that.
Sure.
So you really have to have an idea, I think, as to what to look for on those labels. So take a look at the labels and really get familiar with what your goals are.
Exactly. And not only just look for sugar, but look for other ingredients that don't belong in food.
And too much sodium.
So there's a long list. Chances are, if the ingredient list on the label is about that long, chances are you shouldn't be eating it because there's chemical nonsense in there that we weren't meant to eat.
Or things that you can't pronounce and they don't put in parentheses like what it is. I mean, there are, the flora and fauna names for different types of things, that are okay to eat. But there are some chemicals that have a really long name. When you have those super long names and a long list, like you're saying, I agree with you.
Super. Now, your specialty is cancer care.
Surgical oncology.
So by the time somebody comes to see you, they have a major process going on in their body. You're there for a very specific goal, but you go even further than that. You're an advocate for the patient then taking charge of their world, their diet, et cetera, and moving on that. So
Right.
maybe this is a good time to talk a little bit about that.
Okay, I can do that. I'm happy to do that. I do receive a lot of patients with cancer diagnosis, and I really try to help them to understand that this is not just, this is not something you did wrong, okay? And we can't just blame it on genetics. There's a lot of factors involved, and it's not just factors involved with you having cancer today, but it's really your ability to recover from it and then to stay disease-free moving forward. That's really the big issue. So what I try to do is educate patients on a continuum, a continuum of about 7 different factors, and they have to do with things like detoxifying their organs, making sure they're getting adequate rest, adequate hydration, things that allow the immune system to do what it was designed to do.
Hey, here's a question for you.
Uh-oh.
You just mentioned detoxifying an organ. So what she's really saying is if you eat like crap for years, that crap goes someplace and it goes into your fat and your organs mostly. Would you agree with that?
I do agree with that, especially, the liver and the kidneys are so important during that time, and the spleen. And the liver is a big filter, right? It's just, everything, all the blood goes through there, and the liver just kind of picks things out the same way that the lymph nodes do and the way that the spleen does. Not exactly the same, but just the same principle. And so the liver will start building things up. What we're seeing more of, and this is in the general surgery part of my practice, we're seeing a lot of patients with fatty livers.
Yeah.
This is something that we used to see primarily from patients who were drinking, people who were drinking, and they would develop a fatty liver, and then the next step is, go on to fibrosis and then cirrhosis of the liver.
Years later, in other words. And we're seeing it younger and younger.
We're seeing, people as young as 22 with a fatty liver disease. That's a very serious situation, because that means that as your blood flows through the liver, it's really not able to get through the sinusoids, through that filtration mechanism. So 2 things happen. One is you're exposed to more of those toxins, but the other thing is the liver starts to harm itself, okay? And then eventually that does turn into the fibrosis. And once you get to a certain point, you can't repair that. The liver can't repair itself that way. So it's a very serious situation.
Here's another question for you.
Okay.
Methylation.
Ooh.
For those of you out there, what that means is it's the body's ability to take a toxic substance, change it just a little bit so it can get rid of it. A lot of people, since we now have the ability to test for that, which we didn't have before, I'm seeing a very high incidence of methylation issues with patients. So 60% of the population has some kind of an issue with that.
Okay.
I think. Don't quote me on those numbers. But certainly now that we're looking in the same way that we're now seeing a lot more vitamin D deficiency because we can, where we never used to be able to look at that.
Right.
I have an opinion about that, by the way. My opinion is since we've stopped eating animal parts,
Okay.
we stopped our source of vitamin D. No sun, no animal parts, everybody's deficient in vitamin D all of a sudden. Ooh,
It's an epidemic.
What a
isn't it?
surprise.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
I got off the track there. Sorry. But
we do need to loop back to vitamin D because I'm fascinated with that.
Yes, because that's going to tie into so many factors. In the same way that vitamin D ties into many parts of our systems, including the immune system, so does the methylation process. So if you don't methylate properly, then your body can't detoxify. That clogs up certain systems that then don't work. Chemical pathways don't work. Things build up. Something starts to break down.
He's super smart. He's talking organic chemistry to you right now. It's very,
no.
very impressive.
We
here.
don't use that word. We kept it simple. But it's very, and this is what we deal with on an ongoing basis.
Yeah.
Patients come in, and they're unaware of it.
Yeah.
Because nobody ever taught them that. I was never taught that. I grew up. Heck, we had a candy store on the corner.
Everybody did.
Yeah. It was
oh my
funny.
gosh.
That's what we did. And so I'm sure the dentists were pretty happy about that. We kept them in pretty good business. But these are things that you then have to learn about yourself and get to control. Now, here's the other side of the food issue. We're all food addicts in one part or another, okay? For all of you out there who like sugar, you're a sugar addict, and just own it, okay? Because it's the only way that you can actually work with it. It's kind of like being an alcoholic. Until you recognize that you are an alcoholic,
Right.
you can't change anything. When you finally decide, hey, you know what? I had sugar for breakfast, lunch, dinner. I love dessert after, and then I'm having some alcohol. And by the way, until you get to that point of recognizing that, you can't change it. And so if I had to just say one thing that I would love everybody to just get a grip on, it would be that. Okay?
I think that's insightful.
If you just eliminate that throughout your and that's not to say on Saturday night you can't have a drink or go out and have a piece of dessert or whatever, but it's what you do on a daily, weekly basis that gets you well and keeps you well. So if you do nothing but recognize that in yourself and make that change, and by the way, that doesn't mean taking everything and putting it in the freezer, because if it's in the freezer, you're going to eat it anyway, just at a later date. And I hear a lot of people laughing in the back there because they know what I'm talking about. They took it out of their current view and put it in the freezer because they didn't want to waste it because they already bought it. But if you own it, you're going to eat it.
That's funny. Now, it depends. I'm one of those freezer people. Once I put it in there, if it's a dessert, I just let it decay. I just look at it like, well, it's frozen. I'm not going to eat it. So I'm pretty disciplined with that. I am, and I realize I'm the exception. Yeah. I'm really kind of crazy. Yeah. I used to buy like a pint of ice cream and just get a teaspoon and eat a teaspoon every couple of days.
Nothing wrong with that.
And just, not get a serving and everything. Right. And, I don't even do that anymore. I don't buy that anymore. But I do love desserts.
It's called moderation.
Yeah.
It's pretty hard when you can't control yourself.
Yeah.
That's the deal. If it's in the house, most people.
But I like what you're saying, just about acknowledging. We were just talking about acknowledging that there's an issue. Right. And I think that that's the fundamental challenge with a lot of people. A lot of people are like, I don't know why I'm overweight, or I don't know why I'm tired all the time, or I don't know why this, I don't know why that. And I have to be honest with you, I'm pretty, I expect a lot of my patients because I spend a lot of time educating them. So I don't like for my patients to say, I don't know what's going on, or I don't know what you did in surgery or anything like that. We talk about it. And one thing I don't like to hear them say is, well, I don't know why, I don't know why I picked up this much weight. I always say things like, yes, you do. Yes, you do. Let's talk about it.
Sure.
And really just that insightfulness. I mean, I agree with you. Just being able to acknowledge that, taking ownership of it, not in terms of blame. We're not trying to, make anyone feel bad about themselves or, indict anyone or anything like that. But
otherwise, we're all bad.
Exactly. I mean, because there's something that we all do.
Exactly.
Right? But, you have to take ownership of what's happening with your body at some point and then decide, how can I be the cause and the matter of making things different, transforming this, making a change. And it's just important to do. So I really love that you said that. I think that is so critical.
I think it's the hardest part is recognizing what's going on. So if you can't recognize it for yourself, you need to go see somebody. You need to go see a doctor who does this type of work. If you can't find anybody, you don't know, you can call us. We can either work with you or refer as well.
That's true.
But being with somebody who really knows how to get through that process is really helpful.
Right.
So don't hesitate. It's a simple process. Some of us use blood work. Some of us don't. Some of us use other testing processes. But depending on what your needs are, that's what you can do.
Yeah.
It's also not unusual for people to have parasites in the same way. And what's that? How could I possibly have that?
How do you find that? How do you find the parasites in the patients that you treat?
So
what do you do?
Parasites are a little tougher because stool tests are not always forthcoming.
Right.
In the same way that autoimmune things are not always forthcoming. But some of the newer stool tests use DNA sampling so that you're a doc. You know how sensitive some of these tests are, but for it to be a positive, you have to have X amount quantities of certain things in order for it to pop the number.
Right.
And so let's say you need, I'm making up a number now, you need 1,000 particles of a parasite for it to hit that magic number.
Right.
And it only hits 900 and it comes back a false negative. Okay.
Right.
Some of the newer tests read the DNA of the dead parasites.
Oh,
yeah.
Which is great.
There's some newer tests out there now that are fantastic. Great. So you get a more accurate reading on that. And at the same time, it also looks at enzymes and flora and, and fungus and molds. And some of the newer tests are just beautiful for that. being a kinesiologist, I have other tools that I can sometimes use if people don't want to go through that process. For some reason, people are pretty uptight about taking a poop test.
Can I tell you a poop test story?
Yes, please.
A stool sample story. So this is from my college days, which I'm not going to tell you when those were. But when I was in college, I had a group of friends that it was about 5 years ago. Okay, so when I was in college, I had a group of friends, and two of these friends lived together, and one of them developed an issue, right? So doctor said, get a stool sample. So what did she do? She got her stool sample, put it in aluminum foil,
put it in the refrigerator.
And put it in the refrigerator. So the roommate comes home, is hungry.
Oh, no.
Goes searching through. Oh, let's see. What's this?
What's in the aluminum?
And it looked like what? A pickle, right?
Oh,
so
no,
she's excited.
no.
Oh, there's a pickle in here.
No.
Which, to me, the lesson in all of this is if you didn't put it in the
was
refrigerator,
colorblind.
you don't go after your roommate's food, right? Because you know you didn't put that in there. Come
Plus,
on.
it should have been in a couple of plastic bags at least.
In a paper bag and marked, this is my stool sample.
Yes.
But she opened it up and oh my goodness, it was so
Surprise,
funny.
surprise.
Every time we heard that story,
That is a good
and that
story.
roommate was mad for a really long time and the
Yeah.
other roommate was laughing. Oh, it was really kind of funny.
I just want to know, did they actually taste it? Did they go that far?
She didn't really say.
Okay.
So, we can only leave it to our
I would hope
imagination.
not. I
But,
would hope not.
but they're both alive and well to this
the
day,
weirdest
although they're not
smelling
friends
pickle I've ever
anymore.
heard of.
Okay, they're not
Yeah.
friends anymore, but, it happened.
But in general, people are uptight about that.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I mean, you have to handle it, to capture it.
Yeah.
That's the thing. How do you handle it? What do you give them? I mean,
well,
do you give them a cup
it
or
usually comes with a cup. But here's what I usually recommend: is you get Saran wrap and you lay it in the toilet and poop into the Saran wrap, so you don't have to go fishing it out of the water.
Oh, that's
and then
interesting.
and they gave you a spoon, and you just put that in a little cup, put that away, and that's as simple as it gets.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you've heard it here first,
There you
ladies
go.
and gentlemen. It's easy to
A new
capture
use
your
for
poop.
Saran wrap.
That's right. Put your Saran wrap on there, and that's a plug for that company too. Okay.
But those can very often be very revealing tests.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
Well, because also the cells on the lining of the GI tract slough off. I mean, it probably
You're going to
detects-
see all kinds of
You're
stuff
going to see
there.
all kinds of
Yeah.
things there.
And, and whether there's blood or yeah.
Right.
Whatever's going on is usually represented
Exactly.
in that sample. Although most of them want to use at least 2 samples a day apart, so that if you had some live creatures in there, let's say, they have an affinity for swimming upstream, if you will.
Oh my gosh.
And for parking in different areas. And sometimes the first test doesn't reveal that, but the next one or the one after that will reveal it. And so that's a more accurate test, we think.
Okay, I have a more gross question.
Okay.
I have another gross
This
question.
is not anywhere where I thought we'd be going.
I know,
today,
but
by the
hey,
way.
it's kind of, this is
Okay.
kind of interesting. And,
Yeah.
there's all these tests now on TV about stool and everything. So I think from a practical standpoint, I think people have a certain level of curiosity about it. But at one time, I understood that there's certain parasites that at night while you're sleeping will kind of crawl out. And what are they doing when they're crawling out? Are they laying eggs or, what are they doing?
Yeah,
so
that's
the itching.
not my specialty.
Yeah.
But
So
yes, that does
That
happen.
does happen.
A little bit more in children, but
Okay.
that does happen.
So I think parents need to be on the lookout for this type of thing, to make, for signs that their children might have parasites and things like that. I mean, with kids playing with other kids and everything, they can pick up a million things.
Yep.
Sharing toys.
But it's also important for them to do that.
Yeah.
People who do not play in dirt and are completely sterile all the time
Their
don't
immune
develop
system.
immunities
Yeah.
either. So our immune system, you're a specialist. I'm going to throw this out at you.
Oh, good.
We all think of an immune system in a way that doesn't understand that everything you've been exposed to is still in your body as an antibody of some kind, or you're
antigen.
it's kind of like every time you got sick, you developed immunity to that particular virus or bacteria or whatever it was, and your body has that as an armor, and that's how we develop an immune system. We've now been exposed to all these things, and now we can live with exposure to those as long as we're not, in running ourselves down.
Right.
And that's how our immune system frequently works. So we walk around as a warehouse. In fact, there are some who say that the original monkey-based vaccines that were used early on are still downline from us from a genetic point of view, that we've carried that forward. So everything everything your parents were exposed to that you then got from the birth, and everything you've been exposed to that you gave to your children, it kind of comes down line.
It follows you.
Yeah,
yes,
it does.
Yeah.
So we're all hybrids, and we're all, I like to throw that out because we know what a hybrid car looks like, but we don't think of ourselves as hybrids, but we are.
Yeah.
We had a mother and a father, and they came together, and wow.
Yeah. And here we are.
We're going to take probably a call in a couple of minutes, but I wanted to talk a little bit about getting well, staying well, as it applies to different people.
Okay.
As I mentioned earlier, if you're in really good shape and you're not heavy and you're not on medication for a specific reason, you can do anything you want. But on the other hand, if you are, you need to have some guidance.
True.
Diabetes is rampant. I mean, rampant.
Yeah.
We used to call diabetes type 2 late onset diabetes. When I grew up, it was called late onset diabetes because you got it late in life.
Not anymore.
Now we've got teenagers and 20 and 30-year-old people with it.
I find it discouraging to a certain extent. I really do.
It's all about the food supply. It's
Yeah.
all about everybody just eating sugar like crazy, and that same downline effect, I think.
Yeah, and habits. I've heard some people say, well, everybody in my family is obese, and so it's inherited. It's genetic with me. But I think the genetics of it is how they eat, right? It's
environmental.
It's an eating habit. What time of day that they eat, the quantity that they eat, as well as, habits like snacking or what they drink. A lot of people don't realize if you drink, 2 liters worth of pop or soda, whatever you want to call it, a day, that is a significant drain on your system, diabetes risk.
You got acid, you got sugar,
obesity,
you got all kinds of stuff.
And chemicals that none of us can pronounce,
Leaches
right?
your calcium out of your bones,
Exactly.
blah, blah, on and on and on.
That is the devil,
So
I think,
the reality
sometimes.
on that world is if you eat 100 calories more than you burn in that day, you're gaining weight.
There you go.
So you have to kind of get to the point where you really are equal, intake versus output kind of a thing. And that takes a little doing. And as you get older, that changes, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I can tell you that changes.
But don't you think
Every
it
10
changes?
years.
But don't you think it's due to habits? Like when when you're young, you're like running around, you're doing all kinds of things, you're adventurous, but you just slowly start to slow down, over time to a certain extent. I don't think we're doing the same things that we were doing when we were 22.
To a certain extent. Some people don't.
I
have a concept for you. What's wrong with being a little hungry? We think you can never be hungry. You have to feed yourself all day long. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, in between snacks. You got to graze all day long. You got to feed. Where did that come from? So that's kind of flowing into the new cycle of diet, which is called intermittent fasting. And they basically said, hey, you know what? We eat too much. Yeah. We eat too often. Yeah. We eat too long. Let's narrow the window in which we eat.
And we eat for the wrong reason. I think that's one of the biggest culprits. And that's what the beauty of a food diary is. A good food diary will help you to outline not just what you ate, the date, the time of day, but it will tell you what were you feeling?
Sure.
What motivated you to eat
and
at
most
that
people,
time.
by the time they finish, actually get an understanding
exactly
of what they just did.
Exactly.
Most. I say most, not all.
But, and I
What's
think
wrong with chocolate chip cookies?
at midnight, a whole bag,
Yeah.
That's not bad, is it? Yes. So I think that's really a big part of the beauty of the food diary and understanding because, I think as we age, we become more emotional eaters. I think when we're younger, we don't have as much, maybe we don't have as much baggage or things going on or what have you.
I think we're as emotional when we're younger, too, with different
Well,
things.
I think so, too, but I just think that there's
we
more
think
of the
things
diversion.
are bigger at that point because we don't have the experience of understanding it's a little thing.
But we do, but we're distracted by school, right? Your whole life is just kind of targeted around school, and you go there, there's activities and people and doing things. But as you get older, it's like work and home. And if you don't have
in
as
our
much
school
going
system,
on,
the foods that they feed them.
what in the school system and what is it
general?
like here in Los Angeles? Because I went to school in another part of the country.
I went to school in New York, so
okay.
I too. But back in that time, it was better.
Yeah.
we didn't have potato chips and vending machines and sodas
Yeah.
and vending machines.
Yeah.
In other countries of the world, that's unheard of.
Yeah.
They actually cook real food for lunch for the kids. If you're interested in calling in, that number is 323-293-3375. And please let us know which of us your question is directed to. If not, we will.
For him. No, I'm kidding.
So we talked a little bit about, the basics.
Yeah.
Now, what if somebody has a real health issue?
Okay.
And they're with a doctor who, forgive me for saying this, is just medicated them.
Okay.
That's all they did. They did their job. They did the proper testing.
Which is okay.
There's nothing wrong with that.
I think that's okay.
Absolutely. But somebody wants to go a little bit further and some guidance about, food given that particular disorder.
Right.
They could, A, question the doctor, if they know. B, question the PA or nurse or somebody who's working in that office. Pharmacists are also an invaluable source of information because they get to speak to a lot of patients who have a lot of different conditions all day long. Do you have any other suggestions concerning that?
I think if somebody is really focused on a lifestyle change to address a health issue, I really think you need to go to someone who's focused on that as well.
Right.
Physicians, their focus and their purview really is to address disease, right? It's really not to necessarily, and I'm just saying it this way, necessarily to make you healthy. It's to address the disease. And in the process, you will become healthy. But there's some people who are focused on health and wellness. So if you can find someone that you can talk to, speak with, that you can relate to, and you can get something that really works for you, try to find that person. I think it's important to find somebody who's focused on health and wellness versus focusing on someone whose job is really something else.
Right.
You might get a little information from the pharmacist. You might get a little information from your primary care physician. But let's face it, they have a very focused period of time to do all the work they need to do to make sure that you're okay until your next annual visit. And having a long conversation about this just really isn't built into that unless you make a separate appointment for that specific purpose.
But if you ask, you might get you might be
get
surprised to get a good answer.
Yeah, that's true. You will get a kernel or a nugget here and there. But I think if you're really focused, find somebody who's focused and then come up with a plan that works for you. A real plan. Just what you said earlier about understanding what the issue is, taking ownership, and then being focused on making some transformations. I like the word transformation versus change, but I like transformation. Yeah.
The next level. And gosh, that goes so far. Changing your diet could actually change your brain chemistry.
It can.
And that could make your whole outlook change. I think it was last time we were here, I talked about the triad of health, the chemical side of your body, the physical side, and the emotional, spiritual side. So the chemical side is one of those. We're really talking about that today.
Yes.
Trying to nourish the body. I like to use the word fertilizer, just because I guess I got stuck in the garden too long. But people recognize that they go outside and their plant's falling over. And they've been watering it and it has sun, but it's still falling over. They kind of eventually get to the point where, hey, maybe the soil doesn't have the right nutrients. And that's how I like to think about nutrition and foods for us.
Okay.
It's our sustenance. It's our fertilizer. It gives us the raw ingredients that our body then takes and turns into our energy.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know why, but something in what you said reminded me of a dietary pet peeve that I have.
Oh.
You want to know what it is?
Absolutely.
My pet peeve is people.
Hey, wait a minute. Do you want to know?
You want to know what my pet peeve is? My pet peeve is when people are so proud that they skip breakfast every day.
Yeah.
That can be such a long-term issue, a long-term
Don't you find
problem.
that happens more with women than men?
I don't know. I hear a lot of people talking about that. And what made me think of it is I heard someone today, it was a male physician on the floor in the hospital saying, it's 2:30. I didn't even eat breakfast. I haven't had anything to eat all day. And
That's
saying
not
it
good.
with some kind of pride, like, I've been working so hard today. And I'm thinking, you are taking
That's poor
years.
preparation is what that is.
And you're taking years off of your life. You were in the car this morning. I am a meal eater in the car, right? So if I have a drive ahead of me, I might have some type of a protein shake in one hand, a bar, a piece of fruit. You can eat on the run. And actually, when I went to med school,
haven't outlawed bananas while driving yet.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
No, it depends on what you're doing with them. But as long as, it's legal, it's okay. But my sister really educated me. My sister is a nurse. She's an excellent nurse, actually, primarily focused on cardiothoracic issues and things like that as a manager. But one thing she told me when I started medical school was always keep a bar in your pocket so that if you miss a meal, you can eat. And the other thing she told me is, this is when I was a resident and a student, eat in the stairwell. Now I'm not advocating everybody go and eat in the stairwell. That's not my point. But if you have to run to something, grab a sandwich and eat it on the way, whatever you're doing across campus, as you're going from one meeting to another. Don't cheat your body out of its nutrients, because then you're going to change your metabolism and you're going to throw it into starvation. And then that has a lot of issues. And that's where some obesity comes from.
Right.
It's missing meals or having only one meal a day and things like that. I personally think it's too extreme.
So
what do you think about that?
No, I agree.
That one meal a day
thing. I think
starving.
basically that triggers the body into thinking, I'm starving.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't eaten all day.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever I get next, I'm going to store.
Exactly.
I'm not going to burn it. I don't know when I'm going to eat again.
Yeah.
This is what your body says. This is what your brain says to your body. I have no idea when I'm going to eat again, so I'm going to shut my metabolism down to a minimal amount, and then they wonder why they can't lose weight.
Right. Well, your body stops trusting you. It stops trusting.
What I found is most people need to get
it.
healthy in order to lose weight.
Yeah, I agree.
If they're
with that.
unhealthy, it's pretty hard to lose weight because their metabolism can't burn their fuel properly.
Right. And that's why I don't really advocate a lot of quick fix diets and things like that, because I agree with what you said at the beginning. Because as quick as
you can lose it, you can gain it back up again.
And more, right?
Unless you change what got you there.
And it's what you said at the top of the whole thing. You were just talking about lifestyle change.
Yeah.
Make a long-lasting change, something that you can sustain, not just I'm going to lose weight because I'm going to a party. I mean, that's all well and good. But you really want to find a way to get into a mode that is different from what you're doing now so that you can sustain it.
And most people don't know that 30 minutes of exercise 2 to 3 times a week is all you need to actually fire up your metabolism.
I agree. It's like
it doesn't
magic.
take a whole lot.
Right. And walking is magic. I think walking is just magic. All of my patients post-op, I make them make a deal with me, walking every day for 30 minutes for 2 weeks. That's what I ask of you. And that helps them to eliminate so many post-operative complications. They feel so good.
Got to get the body moving.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Because we're meant to be moving. We have 2 legs. We're supposed to be on them and walking and moving. And that's where our energy comes from.
Right.
And that goes through our whole day. That's why some people love to talk to you, because you have energy, as opposed to some cranky old other doctor that they've seen that's not taking care of themselves.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying all doctors are cranky. And if you think I'm cranky, you're entitled to your views. In fact.
And it's okay to be old.
As a disclaimer, the studio disavows all knowledge of this show. And so just so you know, what we're saying is use this information as educational tools. Find somebody you can work with and get well and stay well. Don't rely on your health insurance to help you with that, although some do have a wellness visit.
Yeah.
Take advantage of that. Mm-hmm. If they offer some blood testing along with that, take advantage of that. Mm-hmm. I find that most of the time those panels are relatively minimal and not of great value, but every now and then they will pop something up.
Well, that's why there's people like you. You really delve into that. You have a purview where you say, okay, this person has these types of issues or situations. Right. I have a panel that's going to address that, and you dig a little bit deeper. So when I talked about finding someone that you can work with and that is focused on what you're focused on, someone like Dr. Kelberman, I mean, you're that kind of person for those types of situations. So find somebody that you can work with.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I mean, I deal with the usual pain management, cases, neck pain, back pain, herniated discs, arthritis, etc. But my look, the lip doesn't work again. But my specialty is really peripheral neuropathy and nerve damage.
Oh.
And so I've had to dig a lot deeper. Mm. These people are not just locally damaged. They have global neurologic changes.
Do you see a lot of chemotherapy patients
Absolutely.
in that? Yeah. I
we
hear
do
that
real
a
well
lot.
with post-chemotherapy.
Oh, that's good to know.
Really
That's
well.
really good to know.
As long as there's no more cancer.
Okay.
Yeah. You do great with that. And I think that we're about to get a call.
Ooh, okay.
So I'm going to put the old headset on and see who's there.
Right. Let's hear it.
Hello.
Hello. I want to ask a question. I want to comment on the show.
Go right ahead.
Okay. Are you guys going to be doing this show every week? Because the information you're giving out is very, very educational, and I'm really trying to focus on my health. And I have other friends that are interested in focus on their health as well, and I wanted to share that information. Are you guys going to be on every Thursday?
You must be psychic because we've been asking ourselves the same question. And Dr. Cutter and I are very busy. And we're kind of thinking that twice a month, every other week, is about the time that we have to set aside for this specific purpose. And we're gonna try that. So stay tuned. We will definitely let you know what that looks like. Do you have a specific question about the topics we've been talking about?
No, I've just been listening. It's been very good. Been very interesting, and I'm interested in taking in charge of my body, holding myself accountable. I like what you said. You got to own up. You got to take ownership. And I think a lot of people don't take ownership, and they don't really focus on their health until they're almost on their dying bed.
Until something's breaking down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you do have some goals, it sounds like, and it's really important, after you acknowledge that you have issues, is to really identify your own goals. Some people have a goal of weight loss or weight management, but then other people have a goal of longevity, more energy, just being
physical activities, et cetera.
Or being able to think more clearly. There's some data that suggests that with increased obesity, there's some type of impact on focal thinking, reasoning, and things like that. It affects the way that some of the neurons fire. I don't know if that data is really as solid as it could be, but there is some suggestion about that. And so some people say, hey, I want to have, better, more clear thinking. And so if you have
memory.
Memory is a big thing. Yeah. So, it's great that you're focused on taking control of your body. Where are we now? It's great that you're focused on taking control of your body and things like that. And so, in setting your goals, that really sets you up for finding the right way to approach what you want to get accomplished. So, hats off to you, and this is a great way to start the new decade.
Yes, I think after this show ends, I'm going to go get on my treadmill and work out. I got a treadmill upstairs, and this is motivating me.
Okay.
I got to get off this recliner. This is just January the 2nd, and you guys really have motivated me.
All right, but don't overdo it because you're not used to it. So start 12 or 15 minutes. Don't get crazy.
No, I'm going to go very slow, but I'm going to be probably watching TV while I'm, working out just a little bit.
All right.
It's just motivating. I got to
no steep hills for a while.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Get your body used to moving again and get the energy flowing, and you'll go from there.
All right. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're quite welcome. Thank you for calling in.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Well, that's a really good point you made at the end, that it's really important, if you haven't worked out for a long time, you don't want to go in there and kill it the next day, right? And just go and, all this pain
I see it all
and stuff.
the time. That's why I brought that up.
Yeah, it really does impact
I used to do it 20 years ago.
Exactly. I should be able to do it now. But, to think of it as an incline, you want to build up to a certain level. But we're not talking build up over the course of a year, right? I mean, you want to build up over time with some type of ongoing activity. So set goals for yourself on a weekly basis. Make sure that you're doing something at least 3 times a week, and, set a goal for the next month and the month after that. And just like the caller said, she's going to get on her treadmill, but I want to see you on there come March, okay? It's easy in January.
Right.
It gets a little bit more difficult in February.
We're talking about New Year's resolutions here, aren't we?
But once March hits, that's the test of the person who's really going to stick with it and make some type of accomplishment. So I want to see you there in March, okay?
And if you talk to people who have been in gyms for many years, and you ask them, do you always feel like going to the gym? They will tell you no. Mm-mm. But they will also tell you, that no matter what they're feeling when they go in, they always come out feeling better.
That is so true. I agree with that.
So sometimes you have to force yourself, but if you're having a really tough day, it doesn't mean you do the same thing.
Right.
So let's say you're used to a 45-minute workout and you're having a bad day. Maybe you're just going to do 20 minutes that day.
Right.
Get the blood moving, get something pumping, get your oxygen moving with your lungs in one way or another, and it will make a difference.
Or maybe that's a good day to take a walk. Walk in nature,
go
in the park, take a hike, and just, allow your stress.
And for a lot of people, whatever they choose has to be fun.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's okay.
Because a lot of people don't like going to the gym.
Right. But isn't it like school? I mean, a lot of people think, I hear a lot of people say, oh, I dropped out of school because I don't like school and everything. I mean, do people really love school? Like, I've studied for many, many years, and I can't say that I loved every moment. But if you have a goal, it doesn't matter how you feel about the process. It's really how you feel about your goal. So focusing on your goal is what gets you through those difficult evenings,
Right.
Yeah.
And here's another little tidbit for all you people out there. We know you're going to fall off the wagon.
Forgive yourself.
Exactly.
Forgive yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you talk to 100 people and you say, have you ever made a mistake in your life? Yeah. You're going to find that everybody makes mistakes and everybody has rough patches and everybody picks themselves up again and goes forward again.
Right.
And that's what life is. And the more that you can do that, the healthier and the longer that you will live and the happier you will live. Now, so that translates into the third area, which is emotional, spiritual.
Yes.
Okay. If you eat perfectly and your physical is good, but you run around all day going, God, I hate this shit, and you're screaming about everybody who cut you off, and that will have as big an impact as eating sugar and garbage, etc.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's because of what we are. And we're this amazing combination of emotional, spiritual, chemical, physical, all like rolled into one. And if you pull any one part of that out of there, we're not the same.
Right.
And so forgive you. I love the way you put that. Forgive yourself.
Yeah.
Get over it. Don't be so hard on yourself. Know that it's going to happen. And just, I usually say, instead of buying the whole pie, just buy a piece.
Yeah.
Because chances are you're going to want to eat the rest of that pie. And it's easy now because we're over the holidays, so I can talk like that.
Well, you might be surprised to hear this, but one of the elements of my continuum, the things I talk to my cancer patients about, is not just detoxifying the organs, but detoxifying their relationships.
Ooh.
People really don't understand the impact of toxic relationships on their metabolism. And I try to simplify
we're in the
it.
emotional, mental capacity right there.
Absolutely. And I try to simplify it by, this isn't 100%.
We didn't rehearse this, by the way, just so you know.
It's not 100% scientifically accurate, but just to make it simplified, your body's either in rest and digest or fight or flight. And so if you have a bunch of toxic relationships, you're always in this fight or flight mode. And what happens there is the adrenaline, it's the cortisol, it's everything that's focused on you surviving the saber-toothed tiger, right?
Which we don't have anymore.
Which we don't have anymore. But it doesn't help your immune system. And that's why I talk about this, because in cancer, even though I may have cut it out and somebody's giving you systemic therapy and somebody else is giving you radiation, your immune system is what's responsible for getting rid of the rest of that cancer. And so when you're in that fight or flight mode all the time, what you're telling your immune system is, hey, don't work anymore, all right? You just go on vacation because I'm just going to focus on being alert and being very, hopped up and all of these things on this adrenaline. So it's important to detoxify your relationships, including your relationship with the traffic.
Which gets worse every year.
Yeah, which gets worse and worse. So that you're not upset all the time, so that your adrenaline levels are moderate and that your cortisol does go up and down the way that it's supposed to. So I think that's a really important part.
So then we talk about sleep next.
Oh, that's one of my favorite topics.
That's when we recharge, rebuild, fix everything that's going on.
Right.
And you mentioned adrenal cortisol responses. And for those of you out there who find that you get up every hour or two through the night, that's not what we call restorative sleep. That's a disturbed sleep pattern.
Yeah.
You're not going to restore. You could do everything properly, but if you're still not sleeping, that's your issue. And you need to fix that. And that does not necessarily mean medication. Okay?
Thank you.
medication will knock you out. There's no question about that. You've got plenty of strong drugs that will do that for you. But half the time, it's actually getting that cortisol level down. And that can be from caffeine and sugar. That can be from emotional upsets. That can be from a number of different things. Some of us run very high strung.
Yeah.
I mean, I usually I talk to my patients like, do I need to calm you or do I need to stimulate you? Those are the two basic, sympathetic, parasympathetic types.
Right,
okay,
right.
The parasympathetic people, we got to stimulate them because they're lagging. They're the low blood pressure people,
right.
And the sympathetic people, we got to peel them off the roof and calm them down and lower their blood pressure. Right. And these are two opposites. So here's a thought for you: couples dynamics. Okay, so one person has high blood pressure, one person has low blood pressure. They both decide to go on the same diet.
The low blood pressure person.
One person is going to do well. The other person is going to tank.
And that high blood pressure person is going to be mad.
Right. So depending how that goes and what the diet was, so you need to know what really works for you.
Yeah.
Okay. Some people say don't eat salt. Some people eat salt. So the same thing applies there. The low blood pressure people usually need the minerals.
Right.
Another thing that happens with cortisol too is you pee off your minerals and you're not even aware of it because of that heavy stimulation. So the reason why being sympathetic and fight or flight all day long is bad for you is because it depletes your system. It keeps you from sleeping. It blows off your minerals. You don't get the restorative sleep. You're great during the day for a while until you get to that point where your body's burning out.
Right. It's true. And, kind of knowing your day and your calendar and everything, I think is a big part of it because sometimes you have to kind of schedule yourself.
So you get enough sleep.
To a point.
Actually, some people actually say, I'm going to schedule 6 hours because I'm only getting 4. Or
exactly.
8 hours is, 7 or 8 is usually preferred. That kind of thing.
And some
you actually have to schedule sleep.
You actually have to schedule sleep. And sometimes you have to schedule those activities that improve your sleep hygiene. Hygiene, just like you wash your body, you're going to have good hygiene about your sleep. So that's creating a certain environment, having a habit that
what does
you
that
do
mean? No
every
alcohol
night.
before bed?
That alcohol before
calms
bed
me
thing,
down.
It is such a trap because, you made a good point about things that allow you to go to sleep. But it's really maintaining sleep that determines how the night's going to go for you, how restorative it's going to be. So it's easy to fall asleep, and then after you get into a certain level of sleep, you wake back up. You need to have that level of REM sleep, that comes in 1.5 hour cycles, and you need to maintain a certain number of those cycles in order to get that restoration. So just because you fall asleep and you sleep 4 hours, and then you wake up and you go to the bathroom and you do this and you do that, and you go back to sleep for another 4 hours, it's not the same. And, I've had nights like that when I'm on call and you get called into the hospital. I know that night is just going to be kind of a waste for me.
Because you're concerned about your patients. Yeah. You're going to be thinking about everything that could have possibly been done, et cetera.
Exactly. So, or you have to go in. And so then that's it. So I think it's important to really, get into a pattern with your sleep. If you can't calm down, take a walk. A walk is a good way to calm down. I really think walking is just like a miracle because there's so many good things that can come from it without...
Assuming that your feet are actually working.
Many what?
That your feet actually work.
It's true.
I'm just throwing that in because in my world, there's a lot of people with feet that don't work, and walking is not the best exercise.
It's not the best. So then there's always Pilates.
Pilates is great because it's
I love
non-weight
Pilates.
bearing.
Exactly.
Always
so
good.
to me, it's either walking or Pilates, and I think those are two of the best things.
Bicycling is also another great activity.
Cycling is awesome.
It's really great.
Swimming is good too.
Beautiful.
It's supportive.
It's just a little less available these days.
Yeah, it is a little less available.
Especially in the winter.
Exactly. So, sleep, we can't emphasize that enough. Really look at that.
From an acupunctural point of view, here's an interesting little tidbit.
Oh, I like this.
So they believe that the body works on a 24-hour clock. Mm-hmm. Okay? That energy from one acupuncture meridian moves on to another acupuncture meridian every 2 hours.
Oh.
So that each organ has its own separate time of the day that it's supposed to be at a certain level.
We're liking this. Okay,
like
this is good.
So you talked a little bit earlier about how important the liver was. So if you're out there, how many of you wake up between 1 and 3 a.m. fairly frequently? Okay.
Sometimes.
So that happens to be liver time.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? Well, it could mean everything from you had too much caffeine to sugar or some toxins, or it could be a whole host of different things. But that's another little wrinkle in the 24-hour clock, point of view. And so all you acupuncturists out of there, you know what I'm talking about, and I'm with you. And that's part of what they do to regulate the energy flowing in the human body, is to manipulate the acupuncture meridians using needles.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Now, I have a little thing. I want your opinion on this, because I have an opinion on this too. But, a lot of people I know, they say...
Is this a test?
It is not a test. This is now you get a chance to hear a couple of different views, and this is related to sleep. But there's a lot of people who say, if I go to bed at 9 or 10, I'll be up at 2 or 3. I cannot sleep, through the night if I go to bed that early. So a lot of people that I know, and maybe I know a lot of doctors or something, they go to bed at midnight, 1 o'clock or something like that. So, what are your thoughts on that type of thing? People who say, look, if I go to bed at 9, I'll be up at 3 a.m. No two ways about it.
I don't see that a lot.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I am comfortable looking at is a 24-hour cortisol test, which shows the flow of our adrenal cortisol hormone. And at night, it's supposed to be almost zero. And if it pops up at any point, that's when you're waking up.
Right.
Because it defeats your sleep hormones. Cortisol up, sleep hormones down. Oh, I guess I have to take more melatonin. No. that'll work temporarily, because that is, does help. But it's the cortisol that's defeating the sleep hormone. So I would look at what's happening with that profile and their rhythm of that. And that might be a tell.
And it's interesting. I think sometimes we see this with people who have a lot of energy, or they're very creative. We think about different entertainers or celebrities
who
that
are
have
night people.
Yeah, and they have sleep issues, right?
Yeah.
They cannot get to sleep. They can't stay to sleep, and they really suffer with that. So sleep is valuable. And
as important as any other thing that we do.
It really is, and it's something to protect, because it really can change your life.
It sure can.
Yeah, in a lot of ways.
Well, I agree with you 100%. Okay. Did I pass that test?
Pass the
Maybe.
test. Self-inflicted testing.
All right, let's see. Did we cover... let's talk about recovering from any kind of surgery for a moment. Not necessarily just talking cancer, but what if somebody had a dental surgery, a knee surgery, a hernia repair? It's things that we normally think of. There's pretty simple, straightforward stuff, right? Most people underestimate anesthesia, in my opinion. They think, it's going to be great. I'm going to be up the next day. I'm going to go. No, that kind of loads the liver up, loads the system. It anesthetizes the whole body.
Mm-hmm. It does.
To get you to a place where we can cut on you and you won't care, which is a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing.
You won't know. You will not be aware. Yeah.
But recovering from that is sometimes just as important to go through a little dietary change to help you through it as well, and make life a little bit easier for a week or two. So don't underestimate any type of anesthesia. I think is an important thing in recovering from surgeries that I've seen, and I'm sure it's quadruple that for you.
Well, one thing I will say is, we need to do a whole show on, perioperative care and issues and things like that, because I also talk about that a lot. But I will say these few things. The first thing is, in order for your body to recover from surgery, it has to heal itself. And so you'll find that the energy required for that comes from the liver. The liver donates that energy to repair your incisions, whatever was repaired inside or left open or what have you. So you're going to be tired. You're going to be tired in the afternoon usually, and you feel like an older person. You're just nodding off at 3 p.m., and that's because that energy that you would normally have at that time is devoted to healing. So that's one thing. The other thing is you're at higher risk of a lot of issues, blood clots in your legs, pneumonias, and things like that. That's why I have my patients walk, because it's the wonder activity, because it fixes a lot of those things. It also decreases pain. And then finally, what you said is true. You get anesthetized globally. So that means that you're anesthetized globally. And so, your stomach, your small intestines, large intestines kind of wake up at different rates. So that's where some of that postoperative nausea and vomiting and inability to tolerate certain foods comes from. So that's just kind of like a 30,000-foot view of the perioperative time frame. And so on another time, we can really delve into this.
Beautiful. We'll do that. unfortunately, we don't have much time left. So, Dr. Suzanne Cutter, Curetology.com, 213-261-7100, WestsideWellnessCenter.com, 310-268-8008. We are always available to guide you to the right place or help you if it's within our scope of practice. Remember, being your own advocate is a very important tool. And I so appreciate your point of view on that, Dr. Cutter. And it looks like our time is just about run up. So thank you so much for being with us tonight. I hope that we have done some education there, motivated you to take on 2020 full on, to be the healthiest you that you can be, and to remember to be kind to yourself. None of us are perfect, but you are perfect. And
perfect, whole, and complete.
We're all perfect,
right?
and
Perfect,
we're all
whole,
imperfect. And learn as much as you can. Try things out. Get a professional consultation if you're not succeeding. There's always a way to find a correct exercise. There's always a way to find the right food. And we appreciate you again, Dr. Cutter, Dr. Jason Kelberman, and thank you for tuning in to Health from the Inside Out.
Thank you.
Heaven must have known that this day would surely come along.